eventually they get the shot down and look at Shen. He's still alive on the backline. Shen is doing absolute work. He's gunning down some outlaws. There's two. They're looking for more. H2K who turned this one around. Deficio.
Really?
Here comes the ace in the hole. He ignites the first blood. Reckless secures it. He keeps getting caught out as well by Bronze. The Featherstorm, but he's locked in place. The bindings connect. It's a double for Reckless. Fnatic lock it down 10-0 as they secure their spot at the top of the EU LCS.
And for the first time in history, the fourth consecutive EU LCS title. G2 Esports.
Misfits, the underdogs in this game. No one expected anything, but they hit hard.
The first Blood King! Let's make this a clean fight.
Cringe.
Welcome to Berlin, Germany for an action-filled day in the LCS Spring Split. The top teams will be looking to prove their superiority as they face off against the 5 contenders below them, who are all tied for that last playoffs spot. Good afternoon. I'm Sjokz, and I'm sure you heard it already, but I'm joined by Martin Deficio. Everyone heard that, Martin.
I didn't know it was on.
And also,
I thought I was just talking to you. You know,
Yeah.
we had a friendly chat here.
Because I'm back. I tried to grow my beard overnight, but not enough time.
I'm kind of disappointed in that. Luckily, I get to cast with Dracos later today, so I
you
get
will
the
see
beard
him
back.
then,
There
for
we
sure.
go.
Well, a lot of interesting storylines in the race for playoffs. I wasn't around yesterday, so can you fill me in on the highlights of day one?
Yes, 3 big highlights from yesterday. I want to start with H2K specifically because they pulled off that insane comeback we just actually saw in the intro video where Sheriff, of course, the rookie AD carry, just went completely nuts in the late game. And it was a rough early game where this team just fell really far behind. It was all part of the veteran strategy, though, from H2K, where they know fall behind against the top teams and then you can punish them late game. Apparently, it keeps working. So when you have carries like Sheriff and Selfie, yeah, you can do this in the late game and win fights like the one we're seeing at the moment. And that actually meant that H2K won another game. They are still in this race for playoffs, and I actually think they look like the favorite among the bottom teams to make it into the top 6. So that is a big, big thing for a lineup that was 1-8 early on in the split. Now, second team, though, is Splice. You can see them on the screen here. These guys, they're so good right now. 4-game win streak. Yesterday, they were so good at executing when it came to securing Baron, defending after falling a bit behind, and then late game team fights, as always, look fantastic on the side of Splice. And I like the fact that we're seeing different styles from this team. We've seen good early games. We've seen good late games. I like the drafts from Peter Dunn. So I think at the moment, Splice look like one of the absolute strongest teams in Europe, and I'm very excited to see what they can do in playoffs, and also if they can secure that top 2 spot in the regular season. Last team, though, already sitting at the top of the standings. Of course, it's Fnatic. We have to always mention how good they're playing, because yesterday was almost a perfect game against Rocket, and it all started with Hylissang on Morgana. He blinds picks it. I get a little bit scared. I'm like, ooh, this is risky. Reckless in the interview, yeah, he wasn't 100% sure yet. But if you hit every single binding, well, then of course Morgana is going to work out just fine, no matter where you pick her. And Hylissang was the MVP for me in that game. And Fnatic, of course, after securing an early lead, cleanly executed around Baron, destroyed Rocket, #1 team in Europe, no questions.
Well, that does translate into the standings with Fnatic at the top. They locked in their spot for the playoffs as well, and now they're obviously fighting to keep that #1 spot locked, because that's how you want to go into playoffs if you are Fnatic and if you are playing that well. Under that, we have an insane battle on 2 fronts. The second place is also up in the air for that bye. G2, Vitality, and Splice can all still get that.
And I just talked about Splice, 4-game win streak. I think they look the best out of those 3 teams. I want to put Vitality next then on my little hype list when it comes to trying to lock down that second place, because G2 at the moment, losing a lot of games. They don't really know what style they want to play. I think it's more likely that either Splice or Vitality gets second place than G2. And I would not have said that a few weeks ago.
You do not believe in G2 anymore, but I think you believe double in Splice since a couple of weeks.
Maybe too much. Who knows?
Maybe too much. We will see. And then further down, we also have the fight for that final spot for the playoffs. That's 6th place. We have a 5-way tie for now, but TLDR everyone has to win their games today, which is impossible. And a lot of these underdogs will want to beat the teams above them in the standings.
100%. To highlight the teams, we have Schalke, Giants, H2K, Unicorns of Love, and Rocket. All sitting same score, 6 and 9. Who do you think is going to make it, Sjokz?
Ooh,
Say H2K.
No, I believe in Schalke.
My team.
I believe in Schalke.
Okay, that's fine too.
We'll see. Well, throughout the day, Medic will be checking in to give you the latest updates in the race for playoffs, tiebreaker possibilities, and all that jazz. First update will be after our third game of the day between Vitality and Rocket. But we also have 4 other games. Let's take a look at the matchups coming up today. Anna said important matches, and it is 5 top teams versus 5 bottom teams. So no matter how you look at it, it could be interesting for both sides.
It's true. Normally, when you have 5 top teams against 5 bottom teams, you feel like you feel like it's pretty easy to predict who's going to win. But in the EU LCS, everyone can beat each other, so it is by no means locked down. I still think like teams like Misfits will be favorites. We've just said that a lot of times, and they have actually lost more games to the bottom teams than they've won so far in this split. So if you're Misfits, you're a bit scared.
Yeah, this one's absolutely crucial. I have my eye also on Schalke versus G2. I know I just said that Schalke would make playoffs, but I didn't predict Schalke to win, and you did predict Schalke to win.
I did, yeah. I think G2 down, Schalke after yesterday, Upset's performance, that's on the way up. I know I've said Schalke on the way up like 10 times this split. And this time it will stick.
This is the one. Well, one other pivotal game is our match of the week where the Unicorns of Love face a tough challenge against the league leaders, Fnatic. It would be absolutely monumental for the Unicorns of Love if they secure a win here just ahead of the final week, and just knowing that if they beat Fnatic, they take a huge step above other teams that haven't been able to beat Fnatic in the race for playoffs.
Yeah, that's always the thing when you look at the remaining schedule. Whichever team plays Fnatic, you count that as a loss from the get-go. But in this case here, if you manage to create the upset, suddenly you look really good in this race for playoffs. And this current Unicorns of Love lineup, while they are, you know, kind of inconsistent lately, I still feel like they can bring a very exciting game, because whenever Fnatic and Unicorns play each other, being it a final or being it a regular season game, it's always back and forth.
It's always thrilling and full of action, and Fnatic, they have their eyes set on first place. They do look like the strongest team in the league right now. They want to keep that momentum, that is clear, but there is a spanner in the works. Well, maybe there isn't a spanner in the works for them, because they have chosen to put Whippo in the top lane. I can't. Whippo in the top lane. So Soaz is out for this particular game. There could be a lot going into that. They have already locked their playoff spots, so it's logical that they might want to try something.
Exactly, you know, give him some LCS experience. He is a rookie. Before this, he was in Russia. He's played in Turkey as well. 19 years old. And most important thing, this guy is a bit more of a carry type. He's been top 25 challenger for the last 3 seasons. So of course you are dealing with a very talented young player who can come in and try and do something maybe a little bit different. Or Youngberg is like, yeah, he's a tank for you. Go do like Soaz.
And regardless, we don't know how the stress of playing on the LCS stage will hit him. So does Unicorns then have a bigger chance all of a sudden today, or is it just a wild card?
I mean, I feel like slightly bigger chance, but I think Fnatic will already have scrimmed with this guy, and he should know exactly how the team plays. So I think Fnatic will still look super strong.
No matter the standings or the circumstances, it is always a back and forth game when these teams meet. So we'll see that that is the 4th game of the day. For now, though, let's dial in on Misfits Gaming versus Giants. 2 teams that are looking to bounce back after losing their games respectively yesterday. You would want to avoid an 0-2 week in the race for playoffs. That is not ideal. Giants yesterday, they lost to Schalke. And if we look at the opponents they still have to play, this is one that they should have done better in at least.
If you want to, you know, be sure of luck in playoffs, yes, you should have beaten Schalke yesterday. Misfits, of course, is the one they're playing now, and then next week against currently the 2 best performing teams in Fnatic and Splice. So this feels like an absolute must-win game for Giants. They've been trying some different compositions. Now they're doing this thing where they want to like dive the back line with Galio, and we have a Kled in there. There's a Vladimir from Betsy, but the coordination is just not on point for them.
Maybe it's too much all of a sudden.
It seems a little bit too much. I actually like how they're trying to draft and what they want to do, but they're just not executing it properly, and it's cost them 2 games in a row now that they could have won.
Well, let's see what they can do versus Misfits. Misfits, on the other hand, they had great success last year, and that's why we also had very, very high hopes for them coming into spring. But right now, their spot in the playoffs is even in danger. What has happened to Misfits? Can they pull it together for the end of the split?
Well, of course, the new members still needing a bit of time, it feels like, to kind of 100% fit with the rest of the team. It's just like last year in spring, where it was a little bit up and down, and they needed time to learn. And then also, I just want to highlight that I feel like the way they're drafting, it's kind of like they're trying to run before they can even walk, because they put themselves on these timers all the time where they get outscaled in the late game, and then it relies a lot on a really good play around 25 minutes. You secure a Baron or win a big team fight, and then you try and close the game right after. And they're not doing that. They're losing those fights, or they're not executing at the Baron. So it kind of puts them behind just composition-wise. I think it's okay if you are in lock playoff to try these different kind of drafts and say, yeah, we can finish the game in time. But if you're Misfits, you're by no means lock playoffs. This is kind of scary. I think they need to get some late game insurance. Just rely on Hansama in the late game. That can win you games.
And when it comes to Misfits, we say, well, we know that last year they also needed an entire year to completely ramp up. But still, playoffs is a minimum for Spring.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if Misfits do not make playoffs, it's a giant failure for the organization after what happened last year. And they kept 3 core members plus their coach. Of course, they should be able to make playoffs.
We're expecting a lot from that lineup in this matchup versus Giants and in the ELCS postgame lobby. At the end of the day, we'll talk about all of that, and I'll also be joined by Deficio, Vedius, and Djoko to take a closer look at the race for playoffs and everything you want to know. If you have any questions for them, you can send us a tweet at LOL Esports on Twitter with the hashtag #PingTheLobby. And remember that we'll also be checking out your LCS Big Plays if you have any suggestions on that front. Hashtag EULCS.
I do have a question for Vedius and Drakos, and I hope the viewers also would ask this question to them. Please, why would you not put Splice in your playoff prediction? That seems really odd.
You know what you can do, Deficio? Go to Twitter. Hashtag
I could ask that question.
At LOL Esports.
Great.
Ask that question.
I think I'm going to ask that question because I feel like Splice, of course, should be in top 6.
We'll see. That's all for the end of the day. But for now, it is time to kick off the beginning of the day with Giants versus Misfits. Let's send it over to the casters and hit the rift.
Hi, Vedi.
Thank you very much, Sjokz. Hello, you esports admirers. I'm Devin Piratechnics Young, and of course, as Deficio so astutely pointed out, I'm joined by the wonderful Wizard of Wales. It's Andrew Vedius Day.
Hello, Pyra. It is a pleasure to be here with you. I'm not looking forward to joining Deficio on
That's
the desk.
a long time before that happens. Don't worry about it.
Thank you very much, Pyra. Let's get into our first game of the day.
Excellent. It's Giants. It's Misfits facing off. Giants are going to be on the blue side. So let's take a look at that lineup. In all honesty, the guy that's been standing out, it's got to be Djoko for me.
Oh, it has to be. This guy is the pivotal early game playmaker for Giants that gets this team early leads. The question is, will he be able to do it against a Misfits lineup that in the early game have really demonstrated to know their stuff?
Yeah, Misfits, they've definitely got to be smarting right now after a tough loss yesterday up against Splice. They are looking to come back strong to try and maintain their own position in the playoff race. And likewise, I'm also looking at their jungler. He is the de facto leader, Maxlore, Nubar Safarian, the big boy.
Yeah, Maxlore's always an interesting player to talk about. He, throughout the regular season, has tried tanks, he's tried carries. Having had conversations with him, he feels pretty confident in his champion pool, but sometimes he's had to vary his playstyle depending on the state of the team, in the sense that sometimes he's had to fill the role of like a tanky frontliner just so that he can better shot call, given that they had initial synergy issues. But as the team has better come together and they've reached this point in the split, he's felt more comfortable, more like he can play those carries because he's felt the synergy has been better. Regardless, when you look at synergy, maybe that has come together, but when it comes to shot calling and decision making, their mid game seems to be where things fall apart. Misfits find this consistent avenue of getting early leads and then failing to translate that into wins, and it is because of the draft. And once again, we're going to be looking very closely at how Misfits choose to draft, and will they give themselves more options, or will they pigeonhole themselves into a scenario where they only have one way to win, and if they fail, they end up losing the game.
Yeah, it's kind of an odd thing to be calling out the draft a little bit, too. You usually put a lot of that on the coach, and Hussein has been lauded so far for his performance we saw last year on Misfits, but things are in question at the moment. Maxlore, I really liked his performance on Olaf yesterday. I think he was a big part of why they got early leads up against Splice. But I am worried. What are they going to do? Do they need to start putting Sencux on a bigger damage dealer? He was on the Galio. It wasn't super effective.
Well, for me, I wanted to see Alphari back on a carry once more. I think he's someone you can still rely on. But for Giants, too, one of the big successes that they had during the regular season was that they were actually really good at reacting to what the enemy tried to do. So in this situation where Misfits would look to try and force plays, Giants as a team, which is naturally very good at responding and reacting to those kind of proactive movements. And it was Giants that were able to take the win against Misfits in the first half of the split. But more recently, they've been trying these all-in compositions. They've been trying to really just go ham. And when those comps that require better execution, when you need the 5-man coordination to be on point, that's where they're slipping up. That's where they're not quite able to pull off the same level of coordination that we do often see from this Misfits squad.
So still calling into question a couple of things, different things on either team, but they'll both have to be stepping it up today. We enter picks and bans with Giants on the blue side. What will they take away? It is the Anivia. They've been clearly watching Sencux play.
Yeah, a lot of respect being shown towards Sencux. I feel like many teams consider Sencux a weak point, so taking him off comfort is something they're going to be looking to do. Wouldn't be surprised to see a Galio and a Skarner banned away. I think both these mid laners are more than happy to pick it up if it is available.
Yeah, no, there's also the Olaf banned out. Well, talked about Maxlore playing that yesterday, but it's been an old Djoko favorite. Even it wasn't in the meta. And of course, Camille is also off the board, so Alphari won't get his hands on that either. Followed up by the Skarner. Okay, so that's another jungler that's been really up towards the top on 8.4. Europe's really starting to take into a liking to it once again. Back over to Giants, though. Let's see what they stick with this time. One top laner, one mid, and now an AD carry. So Hansama won't have Xayah.
Now, I feel like we're setting up for an early pick of the Galio here, which is immediately why Misfits are going to ban it away. Now, Giants could go for an early jungler here, but often we see some the champions like the Caitlyn be prioritized so that you have the strong 2 versus 2 down in the bottom half of the map. And if you're not getting yourself Xayah and Akan, Caitlyn then becomes the next priority for many teams in the European LCS.
Especially considering Steeelback, but instead they opt to go for the mid lane. So Betsy gets the lock-in of the Ryze right off the board. A lot of the other old school, more traditional mid laners have been untouched.
It's also another takeaway from Sencux. I feel like that during the regular season, 2 of his most played champions have been Galio and Ryze, and these are the 2 champions that he's had a lot of success on. So denying both those picks away from Sencux is going to be a big advantage for Giants, and you're now forcing him deeper into his champion pool. What else can he really bring out into this matchup, especially if they save it for the second half of the draft? One expectation would be the Azir. It could be something that they lock in now, but instead Misfits are prioritizing getting that strong AD carry and getting themselves a strong top half of the map.
Okay, so you mentioned wanting to see Alphari in a carry. Unfortunately, he's going to be on the tank this time around. What else do you want to see Misfits do?
I mean, I still think that Sion is still one of those champions that in the top lane can build a lot of lane leads. Giants can answer with something like a Cho'Gath. It's something that they've shown to use in the past, and I think it's a great matchup. But if there's anything else, then it's a lane that you can actually play through, and Sion has the ability to make these kind of engages and set up plays and get early lane leads, and then he can look to bring that to the rest of the map, using his ultimate to set up good roams and snowball these other lanes.
Yeah, you can definitely start getting the charge on now. Over to Giants' side, they pick up a Jarvan for Djoko, and as you pointed out earlier, the Caitlyn, the next big option. Steeelback locks it in, so Giants clearly have themselves a decent bit of damage, solid engage. Over to Misfits, wouldn't be surprised to see Maxlore get his hands on the Zac.
I feel like a double tank comp would be very well rounded. Misfits already giving themselves many opportunities right now. Trist will struggle a little bit in the Caitlyn matchup, so in terms of the early game, Misfits should in theory fall behind a little bit, but given that they've banned away the Cho'Gath now, they can get strong advantages up towards the top side. The only concern I now have for Misfits is what can they do in terms of the middle lane, because you would imagine that would be the role that is pinched. Giants likely to ban away things like the Azir, take that off the board, and limit the pool even further for Sencux, because so far this split, the only mid laner that he would have left is Zoe if Azir gets banned away.
And she's dead.
And she's been nerfed rather hard. Even though she has seen a little bit of play over in the LCK, will Sencux look to go back to that, or will he bring us something new?
I love when Sencux is forced onto like some of the more obscure champions in his pool. I want to see the Aurelion Soul come back. I want to see, well, I mean, Taliyah maybe even.
Taliyah, Syndra could be 2 options, but we'll explore that a little bit later. Misfits now going to look to ban away the Janna. That means to me that they're trying to save the mid lane pick till the very last one, and they're going to lock in something like a Braum, maybe even an Analyst, depending on what kind of a bot lane that they want to go for. For Giants right now, they have strong laners down in the bottom. They have a strong active early game jungler in the form of the Jarvan, and they have many lanes to play around. So get yourself, I think a Morgana would be great here for Giants. I think it's often been considered a pretty strong pick into the Braum. I think it would mitigate some of the engage potential that Misfits have drafted for themselves, and it would give you a strong 2 versus 2 in the bottom half of the map.
Targamas might go for something he's a little more comfortable on. He's played a handful of Thresh this split already, so that does get locked in, sets him up for maybe a little more catch potential. But let's see what that final lock-in is. Betsy is the only one. Excuse me, he's already got a Ryze. What am I talking about? We're looking at Ruin. Top lane, but Ruin has definitely had some impressive carry performances on a number of champions. Remember, sick outplay earlier on in the split, but that was on an Ornn. Will he go back to it despite some of the changes?
So I think Giants right now, if they lock in the Ornn, ooh,
Shen.
Shen. Okay. I can actually see this working quite well up into the Sion. Typically, you would want to pick a Shen into a matchup that can't really oppress you that hard. Now, when you think about a Sion, he just kind of pushes you under tower. So I imagine Shen could struggle in this 1 versus 1. And it looks like the Vladimir rounding out here for Sencux. Interesting deviation. Definitely a big team fight comp has been drafted for Misfits. Early game lead is not the priority. Oh, what am I talking about?
I was going to say, there's something different here.
It's the Sion mid.
This
the
is
power
so
of the flex
Sencux
pick.
too.
Of course, of course.
And
this
we've seen
will
this
be the Sion in the middle lane.
We've seen this in Korea. BDD pulled it out, if I recall correctly. Oh my god, this is going to be great because we've got Alphari now on a carry. He's on the Vladimir.
And this is perfect for Giants too because Vlad is great into the Shen. You have a fantastic scaling matchup. You'll transition nicely into the mid game where you'll have the strong teamfight value. And Sion, he's just going to farm and push, and he can roam. What do we always say about Sencux? Put him on a roaming mid laner rather, help him impact the other side lanes, and he's on the perfect champion to do that. My mistake for not remember, like, because we talk so much about it coming into the week,
he's
right?
Gonna look top
and
all the time.
All our discussions were, do we think EU mids are really going to bring out the mid lane Sion? And we were like, no, I can't really think of any mid laners that would really try to do it. And then here it is, Sion for Sencux. Really looking forward to seeing what he can do with it.
This is the mistake, right? Sencux is more of a top laner in disguise. He's just going to want to roam around the map anyways. I like this draft out of Misfits. There were question marks on it. Maybe they were getting a little bit too complicated, a little too tricky, but this seems to play to their strengths. Now, will it be enough to bring Misfits back from a couple of losses and maintain their playoff position? Or will Giants Gaming be the ones to overcome and break out of that tie in 6th place? We will find out as we load up on day 1 here. Week 8, playoff race is getting tighter and tighter. Every game is a must-win, and this is no exception.
We have a very energetic crowd today. Really looking forward to the games. Playoff race is a go. The standings are extremely close. Now, for Misfits, you already alluded to it. A win here is so crucial because they are not safe into playoffs right now. A loss here could make them dangerously close to many of those teams fighting just to get into the 6th spot. And if they do not secure a win, then things start to get scary. And as Deficio did mention at the top of the day, Misfits actually have a worse record against teams below them than they do win record. So it's something that they have to be mindful of. They have to show a lot of respect towards their opponents. And again, they're not playing this heavy early game style. They're gearing much more towards the scaling aspect, much more of a focus on the carries in Hansama and Alphari. We're going back more towards what we saw at the early part of the split. But remember now, what we also said about Giants was that as a team, they haven't really been able to properly execute these wombo combo, full-on dive the backline engage comps. They're much better off reacting to the enemy's play. And when you have a hard engage comp like Misfits have drafted themselves, Giants are also in a good position to play the style that suits them best, which is responding to enemy pressure and the engages that Misfits will be looking to try and set up.
Yeah, both teams have to be pretty happy with the way that they've assembled their compositions. We'll see how it all unfolds. And Mai's definitely going to be up towards the top side. Ruin could be in for a rough time. But we also got to talk about that mid, right? You talked about Sencux. He's going to be having a farm fest. What can Betsy do to really prevent him from having a good time in mid lane?
Well, during the early levels, he's going to look to harass and poke down the Sion. But this is a prime example of what we're going to be seeing a lot of from the Sion in the middle lane. He's going to be using the E. You can remind me what the name is?
Roar of the Slayer.
Roar of the Slayer,
yeah.
That is the Badger. And he's just going to look to poke Betsy out as often as he can. And once he applies the slow, you'll see he throw out the Q as well, and it's just going to be poking and farming, poking and farming. His goal isn't really to win. Misfits won't focus on trying to camp this lane. He's just going to look to get as much farm as he can, clear out the wave, and then look for roam opportunities once he hits that level 6.
So Vedius, I have a play-by-play pro tip for you.
Oh, hit me.
Yeah, so if you want to know the name of an ability on a champion while you're casting,
yeah,
all you got to do is go to your observer machine, click, and hover on them.
Thank you for that.
You are, I mean, this is what I do, man. I live to educate. All right, so we'll watch out for when Sencux is going to start getting a roam on. Now, it is good to note that he's also taken the teleport to start things off. Alphari has gone the more aggressive start, but he has the spell book, so he can always swap over to teleport if need be. Misfits the hard engage, hard indeed. Now, Giants, Djoko roaming into this jungle to try and harass Maxlore out, but he won't be able to do it.
Now he has pressure from the bot lane and the mid as well, because in the early levels, Giants do have those stronger lanes, and Djoko just looking to take advantage of that pressure. And unfortunately for Zach, he kind of has to sacrifice his own health in order to clear the jungle. So he's often a jungler that you will want to try and invade on. He does have his smite, but now that Giants know where he is, Djoko looking for opportunities elsewhere. Gonna be hedging back towards that the enemy jungle of Misfits.
Let's go a little deeper into the two junglers as well. Maybe we'll wait a minute just a second, because Djoko is looking to go in on to Maxlore. Might have to burn his flash as he hops up, hops down. Double buffs just compared to the red. Maxlore could be in some trouble here. Bringing Mikyx and Hansama trying to get the bait out. There's the hop forward, a couple of auto attacks. Djoko finds himself in a real bad spot right now. Even Sencux is joining the party, and he's burning down. Nowhere for him to go but flashing over the wall. Best he can hope for is a stealthy back.
Oh my god, is he gonna pull it off?
They're not even going for him in time. Maxlore, he's trying to race for it. Let's see if he can get the hop over. Stops the back flag and drag! And he gets the blobules, but he's going to be isolated. First blood given to Maxlore.
The red buff actually picks it up for Maxlore. Misfits secure it, and Djoko over aggressive. We were just about to bring up some stats breakdown of how pivotal these two junglers will be and the differences between them. And Djoko, he's a dude that loves to be aggressive in the early game. He's a dude that loves to be active, but Maxlore is just so much more effective at making it succeed. You can see the differences. Their jungle their jungle proximity rather is so close, but it is Maxlore that has that significantly higher kills and assists in the early game.
Dude, Maxlore was so good that he got the kill while he was in blob form.
I know, right? The power of the red buff.
I don't think I've ever seen that before. That was sick. It feels bad for Mickey, but still.
But this is the differences between the two junglers. Djoko often just goes to that blind aggression, hopes for the best, whereas Maxlore a little bit more calculated, and we can see exactly how that works out. Now the key thing here is look at the minimap. Djoko goes in thinking that his bot lane has pressure, so he can pull this off, but what he doesn't factor in is how much faster Misfits bot lane can arrive, because Giants bot lane have not started moving up. It feels like the communication here from Djoko's intent was not clearly passed along to the rest of his team, and while he may have very closely been able to get away from this back, Maxlore wanted to keep an eye out as to where he was. I was able to spot him out, took advantage of the passive that he had, and then they were able to secure themselves that kill. So Misfits finding themselves that first blood, definitely going to be great for them as they are playing this much more scaling composition.
Yep. I have tried that stealthy back a number of times myself. It doesn't work out nearly as much as you think it's going to. Maxlore looking to hop in, baiting Djoko once more as Sencux a little low on that health bar still. Able to pull off a decimating smash. Betsy being chased back. He's got flash if need be, but looks like it's just going to be a few more love taps in that mid lane.
Sencux forced to use his flash to avoid the knock-up from Djoko. Targamas was also on his way up, but now he's going to have to go the long way around as Mickey zones him out. Maxlore doing a good job of just help supporting his mid laner. But we're seeing very much what we expect from Giants, which is Djoko likes to gank a lot, Pyra. Yep. And his influence in the early game is already swinging the pace. Unfortunately, it is in the favor of Misfits rather than in Giants' favor.
Negative returns, unfortunately, right now. And let's check back up with the top lane, because you mentioned how Ruin could have a hard time up against Alphari. He's currently leading the charge, but the minions will turn back around the other way not too long from now. And Ruin himself has had a pretty solid performance on this Giants team over the course of the split.
Yeah, you're quite right. He's an individual that, while from game to game, he's certainly had up and down performances. At the beginning of the split, he was one of the main carries of this Giants roster. He would build himself strong lane leads, he would then transition those leads to the rest of his team, and he was just a big contributor to Giants' early success. Remember, they were a team that was 5-2 at the beginning part of the regular season. But unfortunately, once Nah took a bit of a hit and he couldn't play as many carries up in the top half of the map, his impact started to wane. And now eyes are still on him to be a core part of Giants' success. And on the Shen, he has the ability to do it. But he may get put behind a little bit at Misfits, trying to get out of this struggling 2 versus 2. Go for an early tower as they move up towards the top side.
Yeah, it's a nice play to make the early rotation up towards the top and keeping their Vladimir as well. So Misfits are going to have the jump on this to be able to secure tower first blood. I don't see Giants really reacting in time. In fact, Steeelback and Targamas are just going to try it for the race.
Djoko even in the top side of his jungle, so he won't be able to group up with the Giants bot to help them secure this tower. 3 people versus 2, Pyra. That typically means that that tower drops first. Misfits with a good awareness there to open up the map a little bit more, make it easier to farm for the Vladimir. And Hansama and Mickey can relieve some of the pressure that Steeelback and Targamas have been able to exert.
Yeah. to catch back up on some of that farm. Now, Ruin is going to be hanging out in this brush, but Hansama actually still free farming away for the time being. We'll see if Steeelback and Targamas actually continue to try and push this out. Might see a couple of skirmishes if they're not careful. Hansama getting a little close. Doesn't want to get taunted in tower range. He might just do, though. All right, tower's going to fall.
Looking at Mikyx as well.
Oh boy, Hans. Oh, the flash, the taunt, Djoko, flag and drag, and the auto attacks. Wasn't expecting that, and he gets dunked on.
Great punish there from Giants. Hansama, he wanted to initially push the wave underneath the tower to try and, force the wave to bounce back in favor of Misfits. But then he stuck around thinking, okay, Shen clearly isn't here. I still have time. Wait for him to return to lane. He was not expecting him to be secretly waiting in the bush, going for that surprise attack, and then Djoko with the quick follow-up there to help get them a kill back on the board.
That was just a greedy move by Hansama. Not used to seeing that out of him, to be honest. Usually expect a very good sense of map awareness, but it kind of wavered right there.
Yeah, definitely agree with you. Feel like he should have just based with Mikyx. Just backed away, respected the possible flank that Ruin could have set up. Regardless, the flash taunt did come in. First kill going in favor of the Giant squad. And now they have equalized the gold a little bit more, so they're definitely going to be pleased with that. Ruin now in a 1 versus 2 situation, has completed the Tiamat as well, and he's going for another sneaky brush play.
He's going to be on wave clear duty. Now, I don't think this is going to work nearly as well as it did when it was the opposite numbers. Although, Targamas and Steeelback are coming up. You can hear a little bit of noise on stage here. Mikyx trying to cut him off at the pass, throws down the Unbreakable, and in comes Maxlore. Turnabout's fair play. He flashes over instead of taking the Lantern Blast Cone Express to get the escape in the net over the wall. Hansama with the hop, but it's hopeful. Not going to find anything. Once again, Misfits are able to make the outplay, but nobody goes down just yet.
In fact, it was Misfits that ended up losing out on summoner trades. Mikyx used both the Flash and Ignite to try and put pressure down onto Steeelback, but then Steeelback flashing over the wall, utilizing the Blast Cone, as you identified, to get himself to safety, means that Misfits will find no kill and Giants get away with their lives. But now all of a sudden the gold swung heavily back in the favor of Misfits. You can see the farm starting to go in the favor of Alphari and Sencux. And the only one struggling really is Hansama. Now Djoko looking for a bit of a gank opportunity in the top half of the map. Remember, you do have the Thresh Lantern to make it easier for those gank setups. Neither support yet at that level 6 mark.
Yeah, we wanted to talk about what Misfits were going to be able to do with this Sion past level 6 mark, but there's been movement all around the map, up in the top, down in the bottom, and the mid lane has kind of just continued to be that farm fest. It's 89 minions apiece.
Unfortunately, that is just Sion mid. Just look at the range on the Roar of the Slayer. He constantly is able to poke Betsy out. He has so much wave clear available. The Comet just adding insult to injury. And yeah, Betsy just kind of has to sit here and farm. And now you'll see, look, he's looking for roam opportunities. He's pinging that he can go towards the top side. Maxlore is moving with him as well.
All right, Targamas, Djoko, Steeelback all looking to make a move towards the mid. That's a lot of vision wars right now. The Shen's on the bottom side, has his ultimate, has his teleport. Now Maxlore with the hop in. Let's see if they can get it. They got a hook onto Mikyx. In comes Sencux. There's the teleport coming. Now Targamas isolated, so is Djoko. Do they have the damage to push him back? Maxlore a little low inside the pit right now, but it's going to be Targamas that falls first. Meanwhile, Alphari caught out around the side, but he throws a Hemoplague onto 2. Everyone's low on the Misfit side, but Djoko just can't pick anybody off. Alphari intercepts the ace in the hole. That's a quick 2 kills for none.
Misfits find a very easy 2 for 0 initially. That engage did not look optimal, as again, they were playing into the Shen ultimate, something you always have to be mindful of. But this is also something that we've seen many times from Giants when it is them trying to initiate the fight. Sometimes the coordination comes off a little uncoordinated. So when we take a look back at the replay, let's look at how Giants actually set up the play and how confident they were in making it. They want to try and get Maxlore off of this control ward. They land the hook onto Mikyx, and now the focus is this front line. Hansama is completely safe right now. The Shen ultimate comes in, and sure, they get onto the back line, but who else is with them? Steeelback has to focus to Vladimir. Sencux and Alphari are effectively zoning away the carry threats. Ryze isn't even involved in the fight, and it ends up being a very easy 5 versus 4 overall for Misfits. I'd love to see the damage that Betsy was able to put out, because it felt like that he wasn't really involved once things kicked off for Giants.
Yeah, Maxlore getting away with like 5 HP at that point. That's a feels bad man if you're Giants. And what's even worse at this point, Sencux completes with his gold from the kill. The Banner of Command already into this game, 12.5 minutes, and that's the gold lead pretty much. 1,500 in favor of the red side.
Misfits quite comfortably scaling up now. We talked a lot about how Giants wanted to utilize that early pressure that they had in the bot and the mid, see if Djoko could try and find some ganking opportunities, and unfortunately, he gave away First Blood. He did find that pick onto Han Summer, which hasn't resulted in a huge amount, and now they're at this very early 2,000 gold deficit.
Yeah, Djoko found the ganking opportunities, Vedius. The problem was he was the opportunity.
Yeah, that's a very good point there, Pyra.
It's a little unfortunate.
Misfits were the ones to very quickly capitalize. Now they are setting up around this Rift Herald. You got to remember that the sieging power of Sion, not the strongest, even though his wave clear is, because he is that melee champion. But once you get yourself the Banner of Command, it makes that a little bit easier. But
until you dematerialize the minions. That's one charge used. But that's okay. Sencux is fine. He's a lumberjack. He's okay. He can farm all night and all day.
Good reference there. Love that. Don't know how many people will get it, though.
Only, yeah.
True fans.
I don't know how old I am at this point, to be honest. But what I do know is that Misfits are moving on towards the Rift Herald, so this will make the sieging even nicer for them.
Yes, and this is the point that just about to get to, in the sense that Misfits secure this objective, they then rotate round to the mid, and then they drop it down, push out the wave, and they should be able to secure an easy mid tower. Meanwhile, Alphari, more than happy to just keep catching the waves down towards the bottom side. He's still scaling up. He's feeling very confident on this Vladimir, already completing the Proto Belt. Everything seems to be going very well for Misfits in this game.
Absolutely. At this point, Misfits, remember what they're fighting for, right? They want to make sure that they maintain a safe distance in the playoff race. They're currently one game up from that big 5-way tie down at 6th, and if they win this game, it starts to separate them from the pack, but if they lose, they kind of drop right down into it. And right now, they're playing like they're better than Giants in this whole pool. If they can keep it up, they can prove to pretty much everybody that they do deserve to be in that playoff race.
Yeah, and it does become a little bit more challenging for them to challenge the top 4 teams due to the win gap that does exist, but it is still possible because of the amount of games that we do have left. There are 3 games, including this one, for every single team, and so it is possible if the enemy loses and Misfits is able to win a bunch, then maybe they can catch up, but that's the fantastic stuff about the end of a season. I love the fact that all of our games matter so much. We have this extremely close tie for just securing that 6th spot, maybe even 5th spot, depending on the result of this game. And Misfits now just trying to prove that they are a solid playoff contender. And they're going to do that right now with a pretty healthy early gold leads. But can they close? Can they capitalize on the spikes that their composition is going to hit? That's
the question, right? Because we saw what happened yesterday when they couldn't close it out. They got outscaled by Splice, who were admittedly a much more coordinated team than what Giants have shown us so far. But if they start to lose, if they start to fall behind here, that starts to beg the question, maybe they just do have closing troubles. Right now, not looking like it. As the Rift Herald is summoned, Han Sama on the top tower. That one's going to get knocked down easy peasy. And Giants are responding by just sending Betsy solo down to the bottom. Misfits definitely have the run of the map at the moment.
Now this is a pretty clean play for Misfits because they even brought Alphari down to the middle lane as well. Giants expected Misfits to be setting up for a siege on the middle tower, but while all that was going on, Han Sama was steadily building up a big minion wave on the top side. Mikyx and Maxlore were gaining vision control towards the top half of Giants jungle, and you can just see all the red wards that are littered around the blue side of Giants jungle, and this enabled Misfits to zone Giants away from the objective, which meant that setting up the Rift Herald and with the big minion wave secured a very easy tower. So good control and setup of the map there from Misfits, much more of what many Misfits fans were expecting from this team.
Cleaner macro, allowing them to really own side of the map, especially considering that the Baron will be spawning there in about 3.5 minutes. Now, it'd be very early to try and take it out. But, you know, it's a team with the Tristana, it's a team with the Vladimir. They definitely aren't hurting for damage, especially as this game goes on.
Now, remember, Sion does have the ultimate, a very powerful engage tool, even though it is a little bit linear. Djoko hanging around the mid lane with both Targamas and Steeelback, but Misfits not keen to try and force anything just yet. And they will be kicking off the Baron. I imagine Giants not in a quite comfortable position to try and force this right now.
Yeah, not the most necessary dragon at this point. The regen's always a little bit nice, but you don't need to give up any lives for it. And Maxlore's caught in the middle of a few members of Giants trying to bait in Djoko, but he gets the lantern out to safety courtesy of Targamas. Maxlore hopping in for round number 2, but Giants are standing united, bringing Ruin in. Unbreakable is Mikyx, but not for long as Steeelback takes him out. This could be the fight turnaround that they're looking for. Han Sama already gonna fall, and Giants, that's the reaction play that we're looking for. Just like that, Misfits have melted. Flashing away is Sencux, but can he get to safety with Alphari? The only 2 members remaining, the hook minion intercepts right there. Ruin's going to tank one more tower shot, and Misfits still fancy the chances to try and fight Hemo Plague on, but only onto a couple of members, and that's going to be it.
Fantastic punish from Giants. Misfits try to engage when they did not have Alphari in a position to follow up. Hansama gets caught with both of his summoner spells available, and Giants find a huge team fight win, which would get them so much more momentum back into the game.
That's the second time Hansama's been making some map-based mistakes right now. A little question mark there. Let's see this again.
So now, remember where Alphari is. He has a big minion wave pushing underneath his tower. Tristana is coming up through the river, and Sion is stuck behind a wall. So Maxlore thinks he can go for this engage because Mikyx is here, and Hansama is behind him. But the Shen ult comes in, arrives much earlier than the Vladimir does. Keep your eyes on Hansama. He gets rooted, knocked up, and locked in place for a very quick shutdown by the Giants squad. And with one of the primary damage dealers gone, Sencux can't offer a huge amount. And that means because Alphari was too late to join the fight, it became a very easy win for Giants, who answered back very, very clean.
And once again, the gold game is evened up. So even though there's 2 towers, 1 advantage for Misfits right there, they make sure that they're at least keeping pace on the items. We see 2 kills onto Steeelback at this point. It's going to help him to stay ahead in the race, and they're pretty much equal on items between him and Hansama. Now, can Giants stop the push that Misfits are still bringing? Some of the vision has already evaporated inside of their own jungle, so they would be able to sneak up on Misfits a little easier.
Now, the difference that's really important to recognize is that old Misfits, I say old Misfits, recent Misfits that would draft themselves very narrow compositions, that mistake could have cost them the game, because their composition would limit them, they would have failed to execute on proper power spikes, and that could have been it. But this time with their comp, they still have good scaling. They still have a good team fighting later on into the game. And Giants, they're the ones that have the 1-3-1 kind of setup that they're going to have to rely on getting a bit of a lead with in order to make success of. So for Giants, they're in a position to take advantage of their win conditions, and Misfits too still have the late game insurance that their comp provides. So making these mistakes still will not cost them the game, and they have that fallback insurance later on should they need it.
And that's why it's been so important for them to really change things up in the draft and not have a singular win condition, to be able to rely on multiple players, multiple styles. I do want to see what Alphari can do once this Vladimir started to scale up a little bit more. Alphari on the carry style champions is definitely something that we've been wanting to see a little bit more of, especially in this meta where it's been pretty much tanks or bust. So might be a little while, but there's a teleport. It's going to be canceled, in fact, by Alphari. Looks like we won't get any more action right now, but a little bit slower here in the mid game as both teams still keen to make some action happen, but not willing to fully commit.
I actually think the teleport came in from Sencux there in the middle lane, but no, that's not a problem. Both of them do have the teleport. Easy thing to note. And I think Misfits' goal there was just to try and deter Giants from sieging onto this mid lane tower. It is getting very low, but the bigger objective that's available is the Baron that is now available. So now you can see Vladimir has been sent towards the bottom side of the map. He has his TP up and ready. Sencux is the one clearing out minion waves in the top side. And you'll note how Misfits now look to try and gain vision control around the Baron area. Whereas Giants, they're much more focused on playing this 1-3-1 style. Ryze going to be sent down towards the bottom lane because he can't deal with the the banner of command minion that's towards the top side.
Yeah, it
he
feels bad.
also has the teleport as well. And so Ruin's going to have to go and clear that big boy out because he's kind of obnoxious. So, oh yeah, of course, the minion dematerializer always there to assist him as well. So Giants, they're just trying to keep the map split up a little bit longer. Ryze getting pretty strong right now. Caitlyn has 2 items as well. So Giants, they shouldn't be too afraid to try and force plays right now, but they have to be concerned about forcing the Baron because, remember, their team fight is not the strongest. They have to try and find a pick or create a numbers advantage or split Misfits up before they feel ready to try and siege that big boy down.
Misfits definitely going to be wise to what Giants are going to try to do, of course, but we've already seen it pan out a couple of times. Might just happen again. But a lot of vision investment from Misfits around this side of the Baron Pit. Giants pretty happy to clear it out while Misfits are away. Worth noting on the other side of the item board that Alphari completes his Landry's Torment. Some changes on 8.4, more of a tank shredding item now.
Yeah, that's definitely true. It now does more damage the longer that you're in combat for, and then the Torment. So once you upgrade it into the Liandry's, it does percentage max health damage, so as you rightly identified. Very valuable against this front line as you progress later into the game, and to be fair, Giants will have a decent front line with the Jarvan, the Shen, and the Thresh as well. Just a lot of battle for vision going on right now. Betsy can easily solo out this Ocean Drake, which I believe will be the first Drake of the game, given that the last time they tried to set up for the Drake, there was a bit of a skirmish.
Everybody pretty much forgot about the Dragon at that point,
true.
but that's where things started to turn around for Misfits and Giants. You know, this is kind of emblematic of it, that they were the ones who managed to get the Dragon in the end. Just an Ocean Drake, good regeneration for them, and that can help on these later fights. But we could be in for one of those long ones for sure, Vedius.
Yeah, it feels like definitely both teams just playing the passive game, just playing the farm game, you know, and it's just pretty chill. We're relaxed. We're having a chill stream here, just listening to the soothing sounds of our voices, Pyro. You know, I had someone on Reddit the other day say that they would love for me to narrate a book, only in my Welsh accent, though.
Fully Welsh.
Fully? No, not using the Welsh language. No one would understand me.
Oh, yeah. I was a little confused there. I'm like, I don't know what kind of market is for that, but now Mikyx is going to get pulled back, tries to jump. Taken out by Steeelback. All right, as soon as we start getting into the chill mode, Giants have to ruin everything.
Yes, but they found a great pick there onto Mikyx, and this will open up the door for this mid-tier 1, giving Giants much more control over the map and an extension of their gold lead.
And Steeelback has quietly been mopping up these kills. I mean, we used to call the guy the janitor for a reason, but he is starting to do damage. He's completed 2 items now, the Static Shiv on top of the Infinity Edge, so he's on par to really keep matching Hansama in this pressure game.
And Alphari, he's going to be forced away from this tower because he is afraid of how much control that Misfits have over their topside jungle. He was worried that a rotation was going to come out from the Giant side, and that's enabled Ruin to secure himself another tower. So that is now 3 towers to the 2 of Misfits. Remember, Misfits haven't been able to take the tier 1 of the mid or bot yet either. So Giants, pretty firm grasp right now over the mid game. It's going to be important that they continue to spread Misfits out, look for continued picks, and then set themselves up for a Baron. But again, trying to force a 5v5 around the Baron could be their downfall, as this scaling comp from Misfits reaching a point where it will be difficult to deal with in that kind of a scenario.
That's true, but I'm just watching this game unfold, and it's starting to remind me ever so slightly of what happened yesterday. Misfits up against Splice, started to get fights turned around. Yes, they got outscaled, and that may not happen here, but it should sing a pattern. Shouldn't is and won't is a two very different phrases.
Very, very true, because remember that Caitlyn still has a good late game.
And the Ryze.
The big difference, I mean, Ryze tends to fall off in the late game largely because his range is rather short. And when you have like a Zac in front of you and a Vladimir, you kind of can only hit the target in front of you unless you get a good flank off. So like last time, he had a good position so he could get onto Hansama, but that's typically pretty rare for a Ryze, and it gets much harder into the late game. Because remember, Tristana, her range in the late game is also very, very long. So
and she's got a lot of self-peel at that point.
That's often where Ryze starts to fall off, just because he gets much harder to execute. His damage is still very good if he can get onto those good targets. But yeah, now good hook there, landing onto Maxlore.
Not quite the pick they wanted, though, so they're only able to deal a little bit of damage. However, Giants still sticking true to that composition. The 1-3-1, keeping Betsy on the side lane, keeping Ruin on the other one. Of course, no teleport for Betsy this time, but he's still pretty mobile between his ultimate and the Ghost. And there's a fight in the jungle right now. They've caught Mikyx, pulled him in. Teleport coming down. Maxlore already caught a little bit low here. And Misfits in hot retreat, getting caught up in the pit. That's a lot of damage, burning back and forth. Little Bloblues all over the map right now as Mikyx is going to be the first one to fall. Alphari should be the second. Taunting on, and they are going to be able to take him out. Double kill going the way of Steeelback.
And this is exactly what Giants wanted. They wanted to find a pick. They end up finding a fantastic fight. Sencux cancels his teleport, giving Giants the go signal to force the fight. They find themselves 3 kills. They're going to find themselves the Baron and Pyra. Giants are the ones in control of this game.
Full control, just like that. 6,500 gold Baron buff in tow. And not too many members of Misfits live to tell the tale of the horror that unfolded in that jungle just now. What a play by Giants Gaming.
Look at that gold difference, and let's see how this all unfolds. Now, Giants have full control over the jungle. Maxlore, he goes for a bit of a poke, and then it is Hansama that gets engaged upon, and Misfits are just so spread apart. Alphari can't find a good angle. There's no actual ultimate used there from Maxlore until he dies. Mikyx just trying to use his ultimate as a disengage tool. The teleport ends up getting cancelled, whereas Giants, they are a 5-man unit. They are clumped together. The Shen is primed and ready to follow up, and you can just see that in the damage numbers. Everyone contributing, everyone doing what they need to, and Giants are looking dominant in this game.
Clean teamwork from Giants, and there were so many more question marks about their ability to execute on fights, especially fights they wanted to start, but they are showing up Misfits right now. and proving that they definitely deserve to break away from the pack. Remember, still tied with 5 other teams for that 6th place spot. Maybe not after today.
There, I'm looking at this banner of command. I can see it was just used, and Misfits have no minion dematerializers. They do have the Sion to try and stall things out in the range on Tristana, but can Hansama get close enough to clear that minion out as Maxlore goes in for an engage?
Going for it, trying to make it turn right around in their favor. Maxlore's not nearly as tanky as he supposes. Mikyx trying to keep the shield up, but Giants turning them back once more. The 1-3-1 is still in effect with Betsy, Ruin on the top, on the bottom. Misfits are running out of options and towers.
Misfits are just getting spread apart right now. They want to stay as a group. They wanted to use the Baron to force these fights, but they ended up losing a fight before they had the opportunity, and Giants utilizing their competition to perfection.
Certainly are right now getting those catches, but they could be caught themselves. Betsy trying to make his way out. Betty wishes he could have the stopwatch, but he doesn't need it! Or maybe he does. Alphari melts through the last of his health bar in time. Meanwhile, Giants are too busy on the top lane to really care about their mid laner. And they're still going to be able to get away with even more damage with this Baron buff.
That's a perfectly fine trade for Giants. The top inhibitor has been exposed. Yes, Betsy lost his life, he lost his flash, but so much more of the base was taken away from Misfits. Giants looking so good. A big departure from their performance from yesterday, and Misfits on track for a 0-2 week Pirate. The gap is closing between them and the bottom teams, and Giants, they can equalize the score. And remember, more importantly, if Giants win this game, they have the 2-0 head-to-head record over Misfits. So when you look at tiebreaker scenarios, Giants securing this win could be huge in determining who makes it to playoffs.
And for Giants as an organization, this is so massive for this team in general. They lost 4 of their players coming back into the LCS. All went over to Vitality but Ruin. And they weren't really expected to perform, honestly, at all from the start of the split.
Yep.
They had a really, really hot several weeks. They seemed to be ahead of the meta. They seemed to know what they were doing. You had these new players coming in, and you had these kind of players that never really showed up on the big stage, like Betsy. We had Steeelback, who'd had a handful of good splits. All of a sudden, they fire on all cylinders, and they fall off unexpectedly. This is the type of Giants that we were seeing at the beginning of the split.
I mean, you look at it, right? They went 5-2 in the first half of the split, and they went from 5-2 to 6-9. That is a lot of losses, and many people consider Giants to be a weaker team. Deficio even made the statement that he thinks Giants is the weakest team in the EU LCS right now. And for them to have a performance like this, for them to be able to turn it around on a team like Misfits, who are praised for their early game strength, who many considered, oh, their only weak point is their composition. If they fix their draft, then they should be able to play better. Well, this is a different draft, much more geared towards team fighting in late game. They get an early game advantage, yet they're still behind. And while there is still an opportunity for them to win, when it's a 10,000 gold deficit at 30 minutes into the game, you kind of struggle to see how, if Giants are really going to make that mistake that will allow a big comeback for Misfits.
Well, we did see some big comebacks from gold leads just about at that point yesterday, but I don't know if Misfits are going to be able to pull this one off. Pretty big Baron power play for Giants Gaming, and we talk about the growth of the team and coming back after a big loss streak. Remember, they've been losing 4 games in a row right now, so even with the playoffs not on the line, that'd be a big confidence booster for them to take down Misfits. And let's see, returning to the scene of the Misfits' downfall earlier, this time they won't be face-checking in, and it's so much Giants vision around this jungle.
So now the focus is keeping mid pushed in. There's still a decent amount of wave clear from Misfits, with Sion just keeping the minions delayed, allowing Tristana to just plow through the wave. You still have the 3 items, 3.5, now that the last Whisper is done there for Hansama, but they're being spread apart. Misfits' comp excels in the 5v5, and Giants are not allowing them to group. Shen still in the bottom lane, can join his team much quicker than Alphari can. No teleport converted to the Ghost, and that's going to be the second inhibitor secured for Giants. They only have to wait for the next Baron. Well, maybe they won't wait. Maybe they won't want to. Maybe their goal is to secure this tower now.
Might be strong enough. Let's see. They get the catch in onto the Braum, and Mikyx just melts like that. It's an unstoppable onslaught for Sencux, but Giants are the unstoppable ones right now. Alphari pulling away, and Misfits are running out of health bars, running out of members. Down goes Sencux. The zombie's going to fall soon after that. Alphari, Maxlore, Hans, all cowed within the last 2 turrets remaining for them. Let's see if they can hold on to hope right here. It would be massive if they could turn around Giants at this point.
Ruin still has the ultimate available. Giants continuing with the push.
They're going to be able to melt Maxlore into globules once again. Djoko getting knocked back, but Shen is standing, united, flashing and taunting and taking out Hansama. It's Maxlore to fall. It is only Alphari remaining, and he's being chased back to Fountain right now. Nothing that Misfits can do but watch as their towers get melted through Giants Gaming, outclassing, outmaneuvering, completely outplaying the Misfits, proving that they deserve the postseason berth. At this point, the Minion's gonna finish off the last of the towers. It is all Nexus, and in this playoff race, this is a giant victory!
The first upset of the day. Giants take down Misfits. The standings are now so much closer. Yesterday, we thought it was the battle for 6th, but now it's the battle for 5th. As Giants move up in the standings and they get ahead of the other teams also fighting for that spot while also securing the 2-0 head-to-head record over Misfits.
And you can see the coach in the roof of the door talking to the Giants Gaming squad after what has been so many rough weeks for this team. Looking like they were trending in the wrong direction towards the playoffs, but now they have a lot of hope. And even a little buffer, owning that head-to-head up against Misfits, taking them out in that style, that's got to feel good.
I mean, you look at this, right? Djoko, at the very early game, we thought, Djoko, over-aggressive, he's getting punished, Maxlore doing it again. And then just Giants found these picks. Misfits had one bad fight around Drake. Hansama got caught out a few times. We saw Mikyx getting caught out. Giants slowly gained control of the enemy jungle, and before you knew it, they win a huge team fight. They secure Baron, and then the game is over. 32.5 minutes, Pyra. This was a clean, convincing second half of the game from Giants that they are able to secure a very solid win and a much needed win, given that they only have 2 games left, and securing them now and separating yourselves from the rest of the pack it just puts the pressure on every other team.
And those games won't be easy at all, right? We heard it earlier, is Fnatic at Splice coming up next for the Giants team. So getting the wins against a team like Misfits that had maybe had a few question marks around them like this is even better when you consider it's not going to get any easier from here on out.
It's a very exciting playoff race. We're in week 8. Normally we get to this point and so many teams are locked in, but this only creates even more dichotomy. So many predictions have already started off the day being wrong.
Yeah, what was you were already mentioning
I was
something about Deficio?
Yeah.
Do you want to? What was that hashtag? I believe you might want to ping the lobby.
Oh, it's
for
funny
him.
because he was making fun of me earlier in the day for putting Splice not in there, but I also put Giants in my playoffs prediction, and I don't see a Giants in a Deficio playoff prediction. So we'll see how things pan out later on into the day. Remember, you can't send those. I believe the hashtag is ping the lobby. So make sure you do send your questions in for the post-game lobby at the end of the day. Yeah,
but we got plenty more before that happens. So HJK have taken down G2 and Misfits in their latest games, and tonight they face another top contender at Splice, who are fighting to secure themselves a quarterfinals bye. We'll be back for that matchup and an interview with HJK coach Veteran right after this. He's trying to race for it. Let's see if he can get the hop over. Stops the back flag and drag! And he gets the blobules, but he's going to be isolated. Oh, the flash, the taunt, Djoko, flag and drag, and the auto attacks. Wasn't expecting that. And Bruin and unbreakable is Mikyx, but not for long as Steeelback takes him out. This could be the fight turnaround that they're looking for. Hansama already going to fall, and Giants, that's the reaction play that we're looking for, just like that. Caught up in the pit, that's a lot of damage. Burn it back and forth. Little blobules all over the map right now as Mikyx is going to be the first one to fall. Alphari should be the second. Taunting on, and they are going to be able to take him out. Giants are the unstoppable ones right now. Alphari pulling away, and Misfits are running out of health bars, running out of members. Down goes Sencux. The zombie's going to fall soon after that. Alphari, Maxlore, Hans, all cowed within the last 2 turrets remaining for them. At this point, the Minion's going to finish off the last of the towers. It is all Nexus, and in this playoff race, this is a giant victory.